Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we're going to talk about signs you're the type of person an avoidant commits to, and we're going to summarize at the end. But before we do, I do want to talk a little bit about why this is really important and how it can benefit you if you're a person with an avoidant in a romantic relationship or a friendship that's building into romance. Commitment is something that avoidants struggle with in relationships. And very often, the person that they commit to, they usually, if they genuinely are committing, they put all their eggs in one basket. So when they commit, they really commit 100%. And so that's why they take so long to commit. It means a lot to them. It means probably more to them than it means to you. I'm not saying you love them less. I'm saying their perspective of commitment is they take it really seriously. And if you are the type of person that an avoidant commits to, you're not going to know right away, because even if they are going to marry you or commit to you or whatever it is, they still take a really long time to accept that because they double and triple check it all the time. So I'm going to give some examples, and then we're going to talk about the signs that you are the type of person. A lot of patients of mine who have avoidant attachment, they're really afraid to admit they love somebody. And I've talked about this before. And the main reason is because they don't want to lead you on, but they also don't want to be wrong and then the relationship failed, whatever it is. And whatever doubt they have of the relationship, which everyone has doubts, they fixate on it because they're so uncomfortable with making a mistake. And so a lot of times if you ask an avoidant that hasn't told you that they love you, their answer of, hey, do you love this person, isn't no. It's usually, I don't know. And if you ask them, what does I don't know mean? They say, I care for you a lot. I just don't want to be wrong. I'm not 100% sure. So basically it means that if they didn't have this attachment style, they would be comfortable saying, I love this person. But they don't want to because they're not 110% sure, 100% sure. But the difficult part about things like this is feelings are not about certainty. They're about risk. And avoidants, some of them, don't like to take risks in relationships. They take risks in so many other places, but relationships is difficult because they can't control it fully because there's another person involved. So they treat everything in a logistics type of manner, but you cannot logistically know you love somebody. And so that's why a lot of them don't really know they love someone or don't express it the way that other attachment styles do. And this is way more common with dismissive avoidance, but it does happen with fearful avoidance, and the gender doesn't matter either. A lot of people get caught up and say, well, my partner doesn't fit this at all, but she's a female avoidant, so maybe it's different. It's not always it's usually not that different. It's just gender doesn't make too much of a difference. If it does, I usually bring it up in my videos. But anyways, that beginning was long, but I thought that was important because a lot of you guys were asking. So let's go ahead and jump right in. The first type of person that avoidants tend to commit to be honest, you probably will have all of these traits, but even one of them works. You let them have autonomy in space. That doesn't mean that they're never talking to you. That's not what I'm saying. It just means it's kind of built into the relationship. Avoidants have a fear of being controlled and trapped in a relationship. They're more comfortable with partners who don't pressure them constantly or are emotionally dependent. They prefer partners that are a little bit more emotionally independent and are able to wait things out a little bit, maybe more than a little bit, and they want to be respected for their need for independence. Partners make them feel safe by doing these things because it's not a threat to losing their freedom. And so typically it's going to be like, maybe you guys see each other once a week and other people in relationships see each other, let's say 3 times a week. I don't know your setup, but that's an example where regardless of what you guys do in between that time, you have that space separately. And usually these things build up slowly. So maybe for the first 5 years of your relationship, I know it's a long time, but you saw each other maybe once a week. And then year 6 and 7, you started deciding to move in together. Now you see each other much more frequent. So it doesn't mean it's going to stay like that. It just takes a little bit longer. The next one is you are emotionally stable and predictable. No one is emotionally stable and predictable all the time. So don't get caught up with it. Just take it as it is and be a little bit gentle with yourself. Avoidants tend to feel overwhelmed with intense emotions, to be very honest. And even more so if it's emotional volatility, which means a lot of fluctuating emotions that tend to have some sort of negative conclusion or lead to conflict. That really makes avoidants pretty uncomfortable. They're more likely to commit to somebody who is more steady, calm, and not what they would consider dramatic, right? Someone who doesn't push for emotional highs and lows and, want all these types of things that avoidants just don't feel comfortable with. The reason is, as we've discussed on this channel and in general, avoidants are not comfortable with a lot of emotions. And so if somebody shows a lot of emotions, it feels like the relationship is more work than it's worth for them, because they're challenging something that they're just not comfortable learning, right? If you don't like, let's say you're not very athletic or you don't like running, and the first test for whatever reason is to run on a treadmill, and that's what you have to do all the time. That's not fun. Why would you enjoy that? Yes, maybe you want to work out, but at one point you're going to be like, you know what? I could do this by getting my steps in. I want something that I'm more comfortable with, that's my speed. I don't want to be running all the time. Yes, it does benefit me, but it hurts my knees. I'm not used to it, and I'd rather build up to it, or maybe it's just not my thing. I'm going to walk. I'm just going to take my time, walk. It still helps. It's easier for me. Avoidance will feel that way. I don't know how to, show my emotions. Let's say an avoidant may feel like that. I'd rather someone who's less challenging, for like, that meets me in the middle, right? Because they start here. Maybe someone who's very emotional starts here. They can't go here right away. But if you're here, it's a little easier for them to go here, right? The next one is you don't demand too much emotional intimacy too fast. That doesn't mean you don't demand it at all. It just means you take a little bit of time and you're patient with them. That's perfectly fine, right? Avoidants can struggle with deep emotional vulnerability, and they tend to commit to people who gradually build closeness and don't insist on, showing intense emotional feelings right away. This is not always the case with fearful avoidants, though. Some fearful avoidants are completely fine with intensity that's very fast, but sometimes if it's too fast, they pull away. But some fearful avoidants just are like that, and that's okay. This one's a little bit more common for dismissive avoidants. When emotional connection grows slowly, usually commitment feels safer and they're more comfortable committing. A lot of times avoidants just need a longer time, like we were talking about in the very beginning, to process what they want and be more comfortable with the fact that relationships are uncertain. That's really something that they battle with, and I don't really talk about it much because I feel like it's so obvious, but I kind of have a feeling that a lot of people don't realize that that's what it is. Because some things that are obvious to me might not be obvious to you because I used to be avoidant, but it's usually something like that. That's usually the internal battle that they have a lot with commitment. So it has nothing to do with you. And so by not putting too much pressure or being more gentle, it helps them to process whatever else they're struggling with regarding their perspective and definition of commitment and love. The next one is you call them out without sounding condescending or pressuring. You're allowed to call them out. A lot of them want you to call them out. But just if you say it in a way that's not condescending or pressuring, and you just let them know so that they can show up when they're ready, so that the relationship can be more stable. So let's summarize and we'll wrap it up. You let them have autonomy and space. You are emotionally stable and predictable. You don't demand too much emotional intimacy too fast. And you call them out without sounding condescending or pressuring. I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.